Over 85 million people in Turkey today call themselves Turk. That's a nation built on the grave of one of history's greatest empires. The Ottoman Empire didn't just collapse, it had to be deliberately destroyed so that something new could be born. And the man who did it? He didn't just end an empire, he reinvented an entire civilization overnight. This is the story of how one empire had to die for a nation to survive. And trust me, this goes way deeper than most people realize. It's 1919. The Ottoman Empire is dying. World War I just ended. The empire lost, badly. Britain and France are carving up Ottoman territory like a birthday cake. The empire that once stretched from Algeria to Iraq, from Hungary to Yemen, is being split into dozens of pieces. Constantinople, the capital that stood for over 600 years, is occupied by foreign troops. Ottoman soldiers walk the streets of their own capital, while British and French flags fly overhead. The empire that terrified Europe for centuries is on its knees. And here's the thing nobody talks about. Most people think the Ottoman Empire just fell apart, like it was old, weak, and naturally collapsed. But that's not what happened. The Ottoman Empire was murdered, piece by piece, treaty by treaty. And if nobody had stepped up to stop it, Turkey as we know it today would not exist. Enter Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. And this is where it gets really interesting. Ataturk wasn't supposed to be a revolutionary. He was an Ottoman military general, a decorated war hero. He fought for the Ottoman Empire his entire career. He believed in the empire. He bled for it. But after World War I, he watched everything he fought for get destroyed by foreign powers and incompetent leadership. And he made a decision that changed everything. The Ottoman Empire had to die, not because it was weak, but because it was holding Turkey back. Think about that for a second. A man who dedicated his life to the Ottoman Empire decided that the empire itself was the problem, not the leadership, not the government, the entire system, the entire structure. Everything the Ottomans built over 600 years had to go. But why? Why couldn't they just reform the empire, fix the problems, keep the Ottoman name and modernize? Other empires tried that. Why didn't it work for the Ottomans? Here's the answer. The Ottoman Empire wasn't just a government, it was an entire way of life. It was a religious system, a social system, a legal system, a cultural system, and every single part of that system was designed for an empire, not a nation. To modernize, they didn't need new policies, they needed a completely new identity. Let me take you back to understand what the Ottoman Empire actually was, because to understand why it had to die, you need to understand what it was built on. The Ottomans ruled for 624 years. That's longer than the United States has existed by 4 times. In that time, they controlled millions of people from dozens of different religions, languages, and cultures. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Turks, Arabs, Greeks, Armenians, Bulgarians, Kurds, Persians, all living under one empire. And the Ottoman system worked by keeping everyone in their lane. Muslims ran the empire, Christians and Jews paid taxes and got protection. Each religious group had its own courts, its own schools, its own laws. This was the millet system, and for centuries it worked beautifully. Everyone knew their place, everyone had a role. The empire ran like a machine. But here's the problem. The modern world doesn't work like that anymore. By the 1800s, nationalism was spreading across Europe like wildfire. Greeks wanted to be Greek, not Ottoman. Serbians wanted to be Serbian. Bulgarians wanted to be Bulgarian. Suddenly, the empire's greatest strength, its diversity, became its greatest weakness, because everyone started wanting to be their own nation. The Ottoman Empire tried to fight back. The Tanzimat reforms in 1839 attempted to modernize everything. New military, new legal system, new education, equality for all religions. They built railroads, they built telegraphs, they opened secular schools. They tried everything, but it was too late. And here's why. Because the reforms contradicted the empire's entire foundation. The millet system was built on religious separation. The Tanzimat reforms demanded religious equality. You can't have both. The empire needed everyone to stay in their own lane, but the modern world demanded everyone be equal. These two things cannot coexist. Greece broke away in 1832. Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, one by one, territories that the Ottomans had controlled for centuries declared independence. Each time, European powers backed the rebels. Each time, the empire lost more land. Each time, it got weaker. By 1914, the Ottoman Empire had lost most of its European territory. They were called the sick man of Europe, but they were still alive, still fighting. They joined World War I on Germany's side, hoping to rebuild what they lost. Instead, they lost everything. The Treaty of Sevres in 2020 was the death sentence. Britain and France drew up a map that would have divided the remaining Ottoman territory into occupation zones. France got southern Anatolia, Britain got eastern Anatolia, Greece was supposed to get western Anatolia, Armenia was getting a massive chunk in the east, the Kurds were promised their own state, and Constantinople itself was going to be internationalized, controlled by foreign powers. Look at that map. Look at what was left for Turks. Almost nothing. A tiny strip of land in central Anatolia. That was it. After 624 years of empire, the Turkish people were supposed to end up with barely anything. And this is the moment Mustafa Kemal steps in, because he sees something nobody else sees. He sees that the only way Turks survive is if they stop being Ottoman and start being Turkish. Ataturk initiates a resistance movement from Ankara, deep in central Anatolia, far from occupied Constantinople. He doesn't fight as an Ottoman general defending an empire. He fights as a Turkish nationalist defending a nation that doesn't exist yet. This distinction is everything. The Turkish War of Independence from 1919 to 1923 is brutal. Ataturk's forces fight the Greeks in western Anatolia. They fight the French in the south. They fight the Armenians in the east. Against all odds, they win. Every single battle, every single front. But here's what makes Ataturk truly dangerous. He's not just a military genius, he's a visionary. While he's fighting wars on 3 fronts simultaneously, he's also planning the complete transformation of Turkish society. And when the wars end, he moves fast, incredibly fast. The Republic of Turkey is born, and Ataturk doesn't just create a new government, he destroys the old one completely. First, he abolishes the Sultanate. The Osmans, the Ottoman royal family, who ruled for 624 years, are kicked out, not just from power, from the country, exiled forever. The dynasty that built one of history's greatest empires is erased overnight. Then he abolishes the Caliphate. Remember, the Ottoman Sultan was also the Caliph, the leader of the entire Islamic world. Ataturk doesn't just end Ottoman political power, he ends Ottoman religious authority over 1.4 billion Muslims worldwide. This is enormous. The Islamic world loses its official leader because of a decision made in Ankara. But Ataturk isn't done. Not even close. He changes the legal system. The entire Ottoman legal system was based on Islamic law, Sharia. Ataturk replaces it completely with the Swiss legal code. Switzerland, not a single Muslim country, the Swiss legal code. He's sending a message. Turkey is a secular nation now. Religion doesn't run the government anymore. He changes the alphabet. For 600 years, Turks wrote an Arabic script. Ataturk switches everything to Latin alphabet overnight. New books, new signs, new newspapers. everything changes. And here's the genius behind this. Arabic script connects Turkey to the Islamic world. Latin script connects Turkey to Europe. By changing the alphabet, Ataturk is literally changing who Turkey's neighbors are in terms of cultural connection. He changes the calendar, the clothing, the education system. Women get the right to vote in 1934, before most European countries. He bans religious titles. He bans traditional clothing like the fez hat. He changes the weekend from Friday to Saturday and Sunday. He changes everything. And people think he's crazy. They think he's destroying Turkish culture. They think he's erasing history. But here's what he actually understood. The Ottoman system wasn't Turkish culture. It was an imperial system that Turks happened to run. True Turkish culture, the language, the traditions, the identity, that was being buried under 600 years of Ottoman imperial machinery. Ataturk wasn't destroying Turkish identity, he was uncovering it. But this transformation came at an enormous cost. Ataturk didn't ask for permission. He didn't hold referendums on every change. He didn't wait for public opinion. He forced these changes through with the authority of a wartime leader who had just saved the nation. Critics were silenced. Opposition was crushed. People who resisted the reforms faced consequences. This is the contradiction at the heart of modern Turkey. The man who created Turkish democracy was himself not democratic. The man who liberated Turkey from imperial control used authoritarian methods to do it. The man who gave women the right to vote imprisoned journalists and political opponents. Ataturk understood something brutal about history. Revolutions don't succeed through gentle persuasion. They succeed through speed, force, and the willingness to destroy everything that came before. If he had moved slowly, if he had compromised, if he had kept some Ottoman traditions, the transformation would have failed. The old system would have reasserted itself. Turkey would have fallen back into the Ottoman mold. So, he chose speed over consensus, authority over democracy, transformation over comfort. And it worked. Within a single generation, Turkey went from being the center of a 600-year Islamic empire to being a secular, Western-oriented nation-state. The transformation is almost unprecedented in human history. No other country has reinvented itself so completely in such a short time. But here's what's fascinating. The Ottoman Empire didn't just disappear. Its ghost haunts Turkey to this day. The debate between secularism and Islam in Turkish politics, that's the Ottoman legacy fighting back. The tension between Western orientation and Islamic identity, Ottoman ghost. The Kurdish question, the Armenian question, the relationship with Arab countries, all Ottoman ghosts. Turkey today is built on a paradox. It was created by destroying the Ottoman Empire, but it can never fully escape what the Ottomans built. The culture, the cuisine, the architecture, the music, the traditions. Ottoman influence is everywhere in Turkish life, even though the political system was designed to erase it. Ataturk died in 1938. He was only 57, but by then, the transformation was already irreversible. Turkey was a nation, not an empire, a secular state, not a religious caliphate, a modern country, not a medieval system. The Ottoman Empire lasted 624 years. It was one of the most powerful and sophisticated empires in human history, but it had to die because it could not become a nation. Its diversity was too great, its religious authority was too deep, its imperial structure was too rigid. In the modern world of nation-states, the Ottoman Empire simply could not survive. And Turkey? Turkey survived because someone was brave enough, or crazy enough, to burn everything down and build something completely new from the ashes. That's why the Ottoman Empire had to die, not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well at being an empire to ever become a nation. And in the modern world, only nations survive. If you want to understand how the Ottoman Empire shaped the Middle East before its fall, that video is already waiting for you. Click to watch now. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to keep watching.